What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Metal Album Reactions. We've got another album review for you right here. This is Obscura Diluvium. This is part 4 of a 4-part series of concept albums. I don't have the time or the will to actually dig through and figure out what the entire concept is. Any of you Obscura fans out there that know more than I do about that, please feel free to comment below. Basically, Obscura, if you don't already know, if you've been living under a rock, they're one of the premier tech death bands in the world. I mean, they're tech death legends at this point. They've been at it for a long, long time. I'm actually going to get to see them very soon on September the 21st at the Riot Room in Kansas City. That's going to be a crazy show. But yeah, Diluvium is a very, very good tech death album. I think it's actually better than the new Alkaloid, so that's pretty crazy. The new Alkaloid was pretty damn good. I think this is actually better than that album. So nothing earth-shattering, nothing that'll make you go, oh my god, you know, totally reinvent the wheel of tech death or of death metal, but it's just very, very well executed. It's a modern tech death with a progressive bent to it, so it's very cool. The guitar work in several spots on this album is absolutely fantastic. I don't know if they were able to sustain it necessarily over the course of an entire song, but in different spots on this album, it'll just make you shake your head, man. You'll be like, God damn, like this guy can really play, or these guys. I think they have a new guitarist, Rafael Trujillo, and I think he did a great job on this album. The stuff that he was writing, especially a lot of the solos, sounded very proggy. But I think it fit well with the music. I think that it worked well. It didn't sound like we were being pulled out of the vibe of what was happening. It just, you know, it complemented what he was doing, complemented the overall vibe of the music very well. There was a lot of vocoder. I think that's how you say that. It's basically that vocal effects that makes it sound like a little bit of a robot voice, like Cynic used to do, like back in the 90s. That was all over this album, especially on the track Emergent Evolution. So some definite Cynic worship here, I believe, on this album. The solos were incredible. I don't think there was a lazy solo on this whole thing. Very prominent bass as well. So they didn't rip, I'm not saying they ripped that from Beyond Creation, but you definitely hear that same style presented in spades on this album. So that was really, really cool to hear. There were several good songs on this album. This album is super consistent. I think they started to lose me, however, on the back half of the album. A lot of my favorite songs appeared in the first 5 or 6. Tracks 8 and 9 specifically were pretty forgettable to me, although in Epilogue to Infinity, one of the last tracks, I think the second to last track before the bonus track, that song I thought was one of the best on the album. So not a bad job, you know, organizing the track listing on this thing. The album overall, I think, was a bit too long. I believe it was about 53 minutes, 53 or 55 minutes. I really, for technical death metal, I like it, my tech death to be like anywhere between 35 and 45 minutes. Something pretty short. You cram all your ideas into all your best ideas into as short a space as possible. You get in and then you get out. To me, that's tech death. What tech death should be, anyway. But that's just a personal preference. What I'm going to talk about is the 2 songs, Ethereal Skies and Emergent Evolution. I actually think that Mortification of the Vulgar Son is the best song on the album, but I've already actually reacted to that song on this channel, so I don't want to waste you guys' time with additional commentary about that song. So I'm just going to jump right into Emergent Evolution. So this song's got a cool ambient intro. It does remind me a lot of Beyond Creation just right off the bat, but I'm not going to say who came first or who served as the predecessor for what. I'm sure you'd have a stronger argument for Obscura because I think they've been around longer than Beyond Creation, but I just wish, mainly what I wish throughout this album and why this album isn't necessarily going to stick with me as much as it could, is I wish the guitar tone was a lot thicker and heavier and just chunkier. It seems like they sacrificed a little bit in that department, with the exception of Mortification of the Vulgar Son. It seems like on a lot of these songs they sacrificed a little bit in that department. for whatever reason. It sounds very techy, it sounds very digital, but I think with a little bit of a thicker guitar tone, they could really hit on some of this riffage a lot better. It could be a lot more brutal, could be a lot more impactful. So, but at this point, I think with this album, brutal is not necessarily the adjective that I would use to describe the music, and I don't necessarily think that's what they're going for. Yeah, there's some great at about the 115 mark on this song. There's some, this distortion gets dialed way back, and there's just some kind of prog style noodling happening, but it's very, very beautiful. It doesn't feel like it's a waste of time at all. This track overall is very gallopy. It has that kind of feeling, so that's cool. I like that sound. There are a lot of cool fills in this song. The drums sound excellent. This is a very well constructed song overall. It's got a lot of alternating parts, a lot of the same parts you'll hear being alternated in succession one after another. That's pretty cool. The solos are very intricate, very proggy. They have a cool technique they pull off in the second half of the song, where they have two twin guitars playing the same melody, and they're like mirroring one another, and they're playing back and forth, and there's kind of feels like you're in a little bit of an echo chamber. Really love that section. This is a catchy song, and it's nice to see that this song was gaining some momentum and actually became the top song recommended on Google Play Music's list of songs for Obscura, and that's for their entire discography. This song was voted, I guess, as the most popular song. Maybe it's the most streamed, I don't know. But yeah, overall, Emergent Evolution, great song. The next song, Ethereal Skies. This one is really cool. It's got some excellent guitar shredding right off the bat. Hypnotic guitar melodies on this track. Really, really cool stuff. Stuff that'll kind of stick in your head. And super technical. The rhythm guitar, however, does seem to be a bit buried on these tracks. And I think that's because you have the bass and the lead guitar occupying so much of the space. Never mind the drums. The drums are there too, but with the lead and the bass occupying so much of the room, you know, in the mix, it sounds like the rhythm guitar is getting buried a little bit. I wish they would maybe alter that a little bit, maybe bring the rhythm guitar out a little bit more, but that's just my personal preference. Yeah, Obscura is kind of funny because they have this really cool like tech death default mode that they can just drop into. And they're playing some riffs and the music's going along, and it doesn't really sound too much different from what you've already heard on the album, but it still sounds good, and it sounds like that's almost their default mode. It's pretty cool. They've mastered this style of music so much that they can just kind of ride a few stock tech death riffs and it'll sound good, and they don't have to necessarily try to blow your mind with every new riff that comes in. So yeah, I thought that was kind of neat. The vocals sounded more animalistic on this track at the beginning. However, around the 155 mark, that same effect came in. That makes it sound like the guys from Cynic. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with it on the album. I think it sounds really good actually. It's just it's really curious. I wonder if there aren't any other ways to kind of approach vocals on an album like this. I mean, they've got the straight growls, and they've got that, I guess it's called a vocoder. They've got that on the album, and you know, there's so many different ways you can take vocals. It just seems like there's got to be some other ways to kind of approach it to make it sound cool and sci-fi and whatever. But you know, I think that's the vibe they're going for. Definitely kind of a progressive science fiction, kind of futuristic. And I think that effect fits that aesthetic very well. There are some additional sounds on this track that sound like violins or like an orchestra. That's really cool to hear. The prog solo sounds absolutely gorgeous on this track. There's so much shredding on this song, it's really difficult to keep it all straight, but it all sounds gorgeous. It all sounds fantastic. This song actually might be my favorite on the whole album. This and Mortification of the Vulgar Son. This song is, I mean, it's so proggy, so technical, so cool. Some of these riffs that appear on this song might be some of my favorite riffs that I've heard all year when you talk about death metal. That just shows you, yeah, if you're a purveyor of death metal, you're always thinking about various riffs, and every year there's a whole new crop of them, and you're picking through them, and you're like, man, I really like that, I really like that, I really like that. But this right here, man, some of these riffs that are on this song, Ethereal Skies, they might be some of the best death metal riffs I've heard all year. Again, the guitarist Raphael is doing a fantastic job. I don't know if he's the lead guitar or what he plays, but the review I saw online, they were really praising him, saying that his guitar playing is really starting to come out and sort of blossom on this album. And yeah, so I'm attributing a lot of this to him. I don't know if that's correct or not, but overall, man, this album is pretty good. It's not, again, it's not going to completely blow your mind. If you're already familiar with Tech Death, then you kind of know what you're in for going in, if you're familiar with Obscura. But man, you can't take anything away from this release. Other than the guitar tone, which I've already mentioned, this is a very well-written, very consistent, very solid album right here. So I would really recommend this thing. I would recommend, if you guys are fans of Tech Death, to pick this thing up. Please stream it, buy the CD, buy the vinyl, whatever you have to do. Yeah, and that's really it, guys. If you guys dug the video, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe below. Let me know what you'd like to see me review and react to in the future. I hope you're having a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is Metal Album Reactions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.